Hello, Rebecca. Are you here for the East Inner?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I'll go ahead and do a quick little presentation. Have you attended in the any of the other rooms yet, or is this your
No.
first room you're joining?
No, I haven't.
Perfect. All right, so I'll get into a little brief presentation real quick, and then I will open it up and I can answer any questions you have. So, as I mentioned, this will be the East Inner Community Area Plan. And so I'll start with that brief overview. So, to start with, this is just to outline kind of the reason why we developed these community area plans, is because, Charlotte has been continuously growing for decades and it's projected to keep growing. So as a response to that projected growth, our city adopted the Charlotte Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan in 2021, and that defines our 20-year vision for growth and change here in Charlotte. And the plan essentially calls for future growth to benefit as many people as possible. So, while that comprehensive plan provides the broad vision for our community, there are other levels of guidance needed to make that vision come to life. So, this here on this slide is the planning framework that was adopted within the comprehensive plan, and it identifies the subsequent levels of guidance needed. So, level two would be strategic plans. These are citywide documents that provide more details than a comprehensive plan on a particular topic. So, for example, the strategic mobility plan provides more guidance on how to realize goal five, which is creating safe and equitable mobility choices. Then, level three are the community area plans. These provide more guidance for the appropriate land uses, building form, and infrastructure needed throughout the plan geography. And then level four is actually specific plans. So those would focus on even smaller geographies and provide more guidance for implementation of specific projects. And it's important to note too that levels two through four do build upon the vision and goals outlined in the comprehensive plan. So, community area plans are essentially about creating complete communities, which means creating places that integrate housing, job opportunities, and daily goods in an accessible manner. So, in other words, where you live, work, and play. So the community area plans were developed with a five-phase process that's occurred over 2 years. And during that time, we've offered a few different engagement opportunities for each phase, and the outcomes of each phase have been shared along the way. Those are on the screen here, but they're also on our website if you would like to read more into those different phases and outcomes. So this slide is going to summarize our engagement efforts from phase one through phase four. So during our phases so far, we've reached over 400,000 residents, both online and in person, using a range of constant and coordinated tactics. So these tactics include things such as social media, our website, and then also all the online interactive content we've produced, such as story maps and videos. While virtual interactions are great, we still really value in-person interactions. And so we were actually able to interact with over 6,000 people from phase one to phase four. For this planning effort, we actually hosted 50 workshops, in which we asked residents to join us, but we also wanted to make the effort to meet people where they are. So we also attended other meetings, festivals, and then had office hours at the libraries. And you can see the geographic distribution of our in-person interactions on this map to the right. And through phases one through four, we received over 1,700 comments that helped shape these draft plans. I'd also like to mention that all of this engagement does build upon the feedback received through the over 500,000 interactions during the comprehensive plan development, and then also on the 6,000 plus interactions from the policy map development. All of these plans were developed using a systematic process, which means that they were developed in the same way and will have the same components and format within them. But while they were developed systematically, there will be some unique content because it will reflect the individual character of that geography, as well as some new common policy guidance that helps achieve the vision. So these plans provide a common set of considerations for all decision makers to ensure we're consistently evaluating options in line with the city's vision. So over time, these considerations will help ensure growth is accommodated in a way that respects established neighborhoods, aligns growth with our infrastructure capacity, and also creates vibrant mixed-use centers for all. Starting to get into the plan itself, this is the table of contents within the East Inner Community Area Plan. If you look at the other plans, you'll see that it's the same contents and organization as I mentioned in the last slide. But I'm going to go ahead and keep the table of contents up for us just to help keep track of where we are. So moving down to chapter three outlines the geography's greatest needs and prioritized goals. These needs are focused on increasing access to housing choices, job opportunities, daily goods and services, and reducing environmental impacts. The plan focuses on these four needs because they're the metrics that were identified in the comprehensive plan as paramount for ensuring future growth benefits as many people as possible. And then the 10 comprehensive plan goals were linked to these four metrics. And if a metric scored less than 5, the associated goals were identified as priorities for the geography. All goals are important, but this prioritized list helps prioritize limited dollars and resources. Chapter 4 focuses on recommended development patterns for the geography via the 2040 policy map. The colors in the map relate to the types and intensity of development that's appropriate in the area. And you can learn more about these colors via the place types descriptions that's included within the appendix. Important to note, though, that the plan does recommend a large portion of the geography remain as is, meaning that if redevelopment occurs in these areas like neighborhood 1, then the new development should match the scale and intensity of development on the ground today. And the plan does recommend that it looks like we've got about 37% is meant to evolve into a different type of development, but an example of that would be a commercial developing to an activity center, like a community activity center or a neighborhood activity center. Um, so this targeted amount of change will help accommodate that projected growth in a way that does respect neighborhoods and pairs that growth with the infrastructure capacity, but also creates mixed use centers to help increase those access points I mentioned before. So this map is, the policy map is expected to change over time. And there is guidance within the program guide, specifically table 3, which is the minor map amendment criteria that ensures future requests are aligned with our growth strategy. There are other pages in chapter 4 that go into those recommended changes and how that advances the geography's priority goals and addresses their greatest needs. So moving down to chapter 5, supporting the vision. So this section includes 5 sections and also references the neighborhood toolkit. The neighborhood toolkit is included in the appendix because it is a reference for all geographies. The toolkit catalogs all the great programs that are currently available to residents to help address their needs. And the intent is that the resource is meant to empower neighborhoods who do want to take action now. And a good example would be there are existing programs that can tap into amenitizing a common open space to create a neighborhood park. The mobility section was actually developed in coordination with our mobility partners, such as CATS, CDOT, and CRTPO, and it restates that Goal 5, safe and equitable mobility, is important across Charlotte. It also includes a clip of our citywide streets map, which outlines the future cross-section for arterial streets in Charlotte. Smaller streets would be informed by UDO regulations. And it also summarizes the citywide strategic mobility plan and highlights the strategic investment areas or SIAs within the geography. But as a reminder, the strategic mobility plan is level 2 guidance that outlines the city's mobility policies. And SIA, strategic investment areas, is a citywide investment strategy for maximizing the city's limited investment dollars in a more efficient and impactful manner. Next, the mobility section also includes a new level of guidance called the mobility assessment. This assessment evaluates how well our future mixed-use places are meeting our aspirations, as outlined in the place type descriptions. So these assessments should be used by all stakeholders, which would include residents, developers, and city officials, to inform future development and infrastructure projects within these areas. So, for example, if a developer were to want to rezone a site within one of these locations, they should use this assessment to propose a project that improves conditions. So, similarly, community members could also use this to evaluate a proposed project against the assessment and determine if that project is contributing to the area's aspirations. Both the open space and community character chapters include similar assessments because both open space and character are important components of the place type aspirations. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to focus on this assessment and we can get into the other ones via the online documents or if anybody has questions about them once we open the floor. For our next section, which is environmental justice and sustainability, this builds upon the comprehensive plan's vision to reduce environmental impacts across Charlotte. And this section does provide more detailed analysis of the environmental impacts within the plan's geography, as shown in the image on the top right with the dials. And it also introduced heat impacts as a new environmental metric that should be considered in future decision making, which is the map on the bottom right. So the plans are implemented in multiple ways. The private and public sectors both have a role to play. So plans may be implemented through private development, private-public partnerships, capital improvements, and rezonings. Community area plans are an important component of Charlotte's planning framework, but they're not the only tool in our toolbox. So we also have specific plans in our toolbox, which focus on smaller geographies and are more like implementation focused. So we have the ability to develop this guidance if and when needed across the city. And also planning is cyclical. So we plan to monitor and update recent plans like the comprehensive plan and the community area plan every 8 to 10 years. I've got some next steps here for us. So this Friday, July 18th, our comment period will be closing. And then on Friday, July 25th, comments and staff responses will be posted on our project website. And then on Monday, August 4th, we'll be presenting to the Transportation Planning and Development Committee. And then we will announce at a closer time when council decision will be. As of right now, that's to be determined. And lastly, this slide shows the various ways that you can review the plans and how we've had them out for review through phase 5. Our virtual open house highlights some key points in the process, some key takeaways, and also provides links to the plans to review and comment. The draft plans are available to read and share feedback on through our online comment form. And then there were also have been hard copies available at your library if you're interested in looking at those. We did have a public hearing on May 12th, and then we had another one of these virtual webinars on May 15th. We have our one now, and then there's actually one more tomorrow from 11 to 1. So with that, I'll go ahead and pause and open up the floor for questions or if anybody would like to provide any comments. And then we can also open up the plan and look at any specific sections if anybody has some specific ones they'd like to look at. So I'll go ahead and pause now and open the floor up for questions. Anyone have any thoughts on something they'd like to start with or any questions or a section they'd like to look at? Happy to go through anything in the document, or if anybody has general questions too, happy to answer those.
Where can we see the document? Remind me.
Absolutely. Let me share that link with you. So these are available online via here. I will send you all the East Inner link, and I'll also send you all the plan overview page that has a link to all of them. So let me put that in the chat for you now. All right, so here is the link to the East Inner plan. And then we also have a homepage here where you can kind of view all of the plans available. And I'll also drop in here both the program guide and appendices. I know during the presentation I mentioned those at a few different points. Did you have anything you wanted to start with?
No, I think I'm joining in way too late in this process because I haven't read this plan, and I'm also confused because you said it was adopted in 2021. So remind me what stage, what are we exactly commenting on right now?
Sure. So the comprehensive plan, the Charlotte Future 2040 comprehensive plan was adopted in 2021. These community area plans are a next level of guidance. So they zoom in a little bit more because the comprehensive plan again is a citywide comprehensive plan. It's looking at citywide vision, values, and goals. And these community area plans zoom in more to start looking at projects and programs and geography specific elements, as well as providing some common policy guidance and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. If it would help, I'm happy to go through any of the sections to kind of help, you know, catch you up a little bit. Or if anybody else has any sections they'd like to look at or any questions or comments. I can also show you all. So if you, as I mentioned, our comment period is still open until Friday. And in order to comment online, all you do is, you can visit the links I sent and you just click wherever you'd like to comment and it will pull up this box to the right and you can provide your comment here. And then those will be put onto the plan and we will be responding to all comments, including staff responses, on July 25th, that Friday, July 25th.
I just started looking at comments and I just thought of something that I was literally just thinking about the other day. I am confused and disappointed about the new traffic pattern on 7th Avenue when you leave Uptown and you cross Charlottetown. And it used to be like 3 lanes or something, or maybe it was 4 lanes even. And yeah, it was used to be 4 lanes and now it's 3 lanes. One of them is a turning lane in the middle. And so basically when you come out of Uptown, you're having to funnel down into 1 lane of traffic and it is always very congested there at rush hour.
Sure. Yeah, we can absolutely take that comment and pass that to our we have
I can.
interdepartmental partners.
My name's Cliff Settlemeyer. I can give you some insight at what happened there. Uh, Elizabeth had the alternate lane system controlled by overhead lights, and over time there were complaints about how many people were confused by that system. But more than 90% of the complaints came from the intersection of Charlottetown and 7th, where they put up traffic lights that didn't coincide with the lane directions or the lights that controlled the movable lanes. So even for someone like myself, when I got to that intersection, I've been driving here 30 years, but it was always difficult. And the only thing they needed to do was restring the traffic lights and the signs, and everything would have been great. But because the people doing it didn't know Elizabeth, didn't know anything about the system or why it was implemented in the first place, we got a complete revamp. And I agree with you, it doesn't work well at all. Thanks.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and we will definitely take any notes that apply to our partners, for example, our transportation partners, and we will be passing those on to them as part of this process. So they will receive any comments that apply to them. Did we have anything else that people would like to look at or questions I can answer?
Maddie, did you already do next steps or do you want to go back over that
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, I can pull those up again. We just went over those a minute ago. Let me pull that back up. All right. Go to the last slide. Okay. All right, so just to kind of cover our next steps one more time for everyone in the room. So as I previously mentioned, our comment period is open until this Friday. Those links that I sent in the chat, you're welcome to leave your comments there. And then after the comment period closes on Friday, July 25th, we will be posting comments and staff responses onto the project website. And then Monday, August 4th, we'll be presenting to the Transportation Planning and Development Committee. And then City Council decision is to be determined. So we will announce, information on that closer to time. Did anybody have any questions on how to comment or questions about these next steps?
Well, I'll start with a simple question.
Sure.
Will the city council be voting on the entire plan?
Kathy, do you mind speaking to kind of the process of adoption and
Yeah,
how they
sure.
review?
Yeah, so yes, they'll be adopting all 14 plans. They will not be adopting the implementation plan or the appendix, and that's typical. The reason for not adopting the both of those items really is with the implementation plan, it doesn't, by adopting it, it doesn't commit any funds. That's a separate process. And also it allows us to update it as projects are completed, as prioritization might change, as other funding becomes available. It allows us to make changes to the implementation plan and updates without having to take it back to council. And similar for the appendix, there's some information in there that may need to be updated over time as well. But the other 14 plans will be adopted individually, but all at the same time, and the program guide as well.
What does that mean? Hey, Kathy, this is Cliff
Hey, Cliff, how are you
Settlemyer.
doing?
I'm doing
Great to see
fine.
you
Poor
again.
Maddie, I've driving her crazy. I'm glad you
No,
showed
no.
up to
Oh
bring some
no.
sanity to the conversation. How have you
We've
been?
had a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. That's so kind. No,
So
uh,
you
I
the
established.
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say I established some groundwork with Maddie at how unhappy I was that this project was not did not follow the existing uh, government lines that Elizabeth. So, in other words, where I live, I'm in District 1, but the area that I have to deal with is not the Area 1. And so I can go to my Area 1 representative, but it's not going to get me down the road because there are other people involved. And I think it's just totally wrong for the city council to have any ambition about approving these things at the same time. I think about Trump and tariffs, and he has to deal with all these companies separately, even though it's all the same thing. Each area should be dealt with separately. And you said it gave some hint that it will be, and that would be great. But can you elaborate on that?
Yeah,
It won't be.
some council members have suggested that they all not be considered at the same time, but our recommendation has been that they are considered and voted upon at the same time so that all parts of our community have the same level of guidance. And part of this was, and this isn't in this presentation because it's a little too much detail, but we do have a slide that shows that prior to this, Elizabeth, for example, had a small area plan. Dilworth had some parts of the community had a small area plan that had the most up-to-date guidance, but that was only about 25% of the community. So 75% of the community was left with guidance from the 80s and 90s. So a big part of doing 14 area plans at one time, which is a massive undertaking that I don't know any other city in the country that has done that type of work. But part of the benefits of that is that we're bringing the whole community up with the same level of guidance at the same time. Everyone's operating from the same level playing field. Each individual plan will be a separate motion and will be a separate vote. So they won't
Who
be.
has worked on the Inner East area? Who's made that plan?
You mean which planner or?
Who has created that area plan?
They've all been created with the same methodology by the same team working on them.
See,
And then
in Elizabeth in 1984, Ken Lambeau wrote a small area plan that received national recognition. And then later in 2010, there was another area plan that was led by Goodwin, I think his name is. Just a terrific guy. And I think he had like 12 meetings, and I think I went to every one of them. And at the end, we had an area plan that most people were very happy with. And I just don't know what's happened to that plan, why we can't continue to be under that plan, or why we can't be involved. When we created that plan, it was not just me, but there are 20 or 30 neighbors and developers and all kinds of people in these meetings to create the area plan.
I understand, and I actually worked on that as well. So when the policy, the comprehensive plan, as Maddie mentioned, was adopted in June of 2021. And Charlotte had not had a comprehensive plan since 1975. And the first major implementation item from the comprehensive plan was the policy map, which the comprehensive plan introduced the place type tools, and then the policy map mapped all the place-based policies in the comprehensive plan. That was adopted in March of 2022. At the time of those two pieces being in place, all the previous area plans were retired, but those plans were inputs into the policy map work. So, and we did a lot of work prior to that to review all 80 different small area plans, other types of land use plans that we had, and make sure that the place type tool was providing the same or more robust level of guidance, and that we weren't losing anything as part of the work that we were doing. So all of that was early work. So the work from the Elizabeth plan was not lost. It was really an input into the work that we're doing now. And we're modernizing our toolbox to match the level of growth that the city has had over the past 20 years. And then, as Maddie mentioned, we'll also have specific plans that we're developing a menu of that won't just be small area plans. There will be a menu of different types of action plans and smaller plans that focus on specific issues within communities. We'll have a shorter time frame, and we'll be focused on implementation.
Thanks, Kathy. Very comprehensive.
You're welcome.
I just would say, I said this to Maddie in the beginning, I only speak for myself. If you come out to Elizabeth, you'll find a lot of people more reasonable than I am. Don't be scared. But the area plan that we implemented specified a maximum of 4 stories on 7th Street, with the exception of the intersection of 7th and Pecan and Caswell, where 6-story buildings. And subsequently, after a lot of work, we had a beautiful new building built in that intersection, and it's 6 stories high. But more recently, someone else purchased land in the 4-story portion, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what the final plan is, but they were talking about 10-story building there, and there was no help from we got no help from any area plans. We got no help from anybody on the city council. It was just, yeah, we're putting in this 10-story building, and I tell you, I was working hard to save those. They tore down 5 historic buildings. A couple of them were not that great of buildings, but a couple of them were absolutely beautiful. And I'll never forget how we, the HENF, the Historic Elizabeth Neighborhood Foundation, one of my members wrote a letter about this property, and he allowed me to sign it. I sent it to everybody, and it was completely ignored by everybody. There was no point in me even writing the letter. And then within a month, I got a call from the president of the head of the Land Use Development Committee saying there might be fires on those houses. I said, "Oh, okay. I've never known of a fire in Elizabeth, but I'll keep my eyes open." And do you know, Thanksgiving morning at 10 o'clock, I get a text. One of the buildings that we've been trying to save has been set on fire. Those are the situations we get into when we try to do anything in our community to preserve it. These people are not playing games, and they have mountains of money behind them. This one piece of property, the gentleman paid $8.4 million for a little piece of property. I mean, it's just, I don't know how to say it any more clearly. The residents of Elizabeth are cut out of every decision made. And I said to Maddie, she's been wonderful, and she said some things that really reverberated with me. They were great. And Kathy, you have too, and you know how much I like you, Kathy. I mean, you're just a great person to work with. But uh, we're defenseless.
I understand.
We hear
Pardon
you.
me? Yeah. So I wish you good luck on this. I hope it goes well. I hope it goes.
Well, thank you again. As I said before, thank you for joining us. And, you know, we're here to listen. So we appreciate you sharing your comments, and we will definitely be taking those down.
And I'll make one more stupid comment. Most of what I've said is probably stupid, but no one ever built 100-year-old house. You only get 100-year-old house by waiting 100 years. And when people come in and say, "Oh, it's the same thing that was there, it was just built last year," it's not the same thing that was
Thank you for sharing with us, Cliff. We do appreciate it.
there. No, thank you.
I did put in the chat in case anyone is interested. If you're not already on our email list, I would definitely recommend signing up for that. That we do send email blasts that share important things like these webinars. We will share updates on the adoption process. So if you're not a part of that mailing list, I highly recommend that. I did post when we were discussing about the boundaries a little bit in case anyone else was curious. There is some more information about that on our FAQs page. And then I also linked the both adopted policy map and the revised 2040 policy map. The revised, um, again, that is not currently adopted, but I did share both of those links for you all. And then the adopted policy map is also available via the Charlotte Explorer. Did anybody else have any questions, or did anyone need any resources that I can provide? Otherwise, I just want to say again, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us this evening, and we hope that you will continue to stay involved in the process. I will be here for another about 10 minutes, so if anybody does have questions in that time, I'll be happy to answer them. Cliff, I'm not sure if you're interested, but we did also have some recordings from our 2023 Planning Academy sessions. We did like a speaker series, and Tom is one of the speakers. So I'll also put that in the chat just because you might find that interesting. I will also share our community reports. I know I mentioned those previously as well. Those provide even more details on the data for the individual geographies. That's actually from one of our earlier phases when we were doing some information sharing. So those are pretty cool to look at as well.
So I'm just hanging around because I don't know how to log off.
No
I
problem.
can
I can also,
I guess
well,
this big X in the corner will do it one.
yeah, absolutely. If you need
Uh,
anything, just let us know. You can email us at cltfuture2040@charlottenc.gov and we'll get back to you. So thanks for joining us.
okay, thank you, Maddie. You did a great job.
Thank you, Cliff. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay.